Do you see this guy on your screen? You're probably thinking the same thing I was. That's a big, huge, and scary looking football player. Well, what would you say if I were to tell you this guy, yes, the one you are looking at right now, is a 10th grader? You would call me a liar, and I can't blame you because it's hard to believe he's in 10th grade. I think it's more than fair of me to say most 10th graders look nothing like that, and that looks like a full-grown man. I'm sure some of you remember this picture, and it came back into your mind because in 2017 it went viral when Kirk Cousins tweeted out this. On the left, Bo Scarbrough in 10th grade. On the right, me in 11th grade. Now I know why Alabama never called. What makes it all 10 times even scarier is the dude in the picture was a running back. Coming out of high school, he was roughly 6'2" and 225 pounds of pure muscle and strength. I don't want to compare anyone to Derrick Henry. He's a one-on-one and we'll never see anybody like him again, but this guy's pretty dang close. Coincidentally and ironically enough, this same player also played football at Alabama. Think about all the great Alabama running backs: Damian Harris, Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Trent Richardson, the list goes on and on. This is one of the guys who gets lost in the mix. Even me myself, I fell victim to this. When I think of Alabama running backs, he's a guy I totally forget to mention. Yeah, he didn't have a lustful and outstanding career, but it was good at one time. Take nothing away from Derrick, he's an outstanding running back and he was awesome at Alabama. But there was just something about this guy that scared me. Maybe it's that picture I'm scarred from and I can't get it out of my head. It would have made a little more sense if you said that's a high school senior, but a 10th grader? Come on now. Seriously though, what 10th grader looks like this? He has veins popping out of his arms. Whoa. Hold on. I don't want you to get confused. He wasn't just one of those running backs who was big and scary. He was also explosive, fast, and he was a great athlete. Was he the fastest running back in the country? No, but for that size, he was a little too fast if you know what I'm saying. I hate to bring it up, but it's such a great comparison. He's kind of similar to Derrick Henry. Whenever you look at him, you go, oh, this guy's too big to be playing running back, and he's still one of the fastest players out there. Coming out of high school, he was a 5-star recruit and one of Alabama's biggest targets at running back, and that's where he committed and stay committed and signed 2 years later. Fast forwarding in time to when he got to Alabama, he started to make a name for himself and he was looking like one of the best running backs in the country. As just a sophomore in the national championship game against Clemson, he had 90 yards in the first half with 2 touchdowns. It was looking like Alabama was going to feed him the rock and let him carry them to a national championship. That was the case up until early in the second half. He suffered a broken bone in his right leg. I know what some of you may be thinking. He was just a one-hit wonder. He had one good game in the championship. But in the game before that, in the semifinals, he had 19 carries for 180 yards against Washington. It wasn't a fluke. Bo Scarborough was playing and looking like he was going to go down as one of the greatest Alabama running backs of all time. After that standout sophomore year at Alabama, things went downhill really fast. How fast, may you ask? Well, fast forward in time to only 5 years later, he doesn't even have a job. Yes, that's right, you heard me correctly. The former 5-star recruit, the former scariest Alabama running back of all time, is now jobless. Hard to imagine that being the case, but it's the reality to his situation. I would say he has one of the most mysterious stories out there, considering the fact he's an Alabama running back and was one of the best at his time, yet when you talk about Alabama running backs, nobody brings up his name. Kind of odd if you had to ask me, so it leaves us with the main question we're going to try to figure out today. What really happened to Bo Scarbrough? What's good, y'all? Just want to drop by real quick and say we are super close to 200,000 subscribers. So if you want to help the channel out, enjoy the content, and help us reach our goals, I'd appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. I mean that. If not, that's cool too. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let's get into it. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention this. I'm about to start streaming on Twitch. I'm going to leave a link down below. Go follow my Twitch and turn on the notifications so you know when I go live. Don't worry, I haven't streamed yet. It's something I want to do in the future. I think I'm going to start in about a week. So if you want to do that, feel free to do so. And now, without further ado, let's really get into it. Man, oh man, good old Bo Scarbrough. He has one of the most mysterious football careers of all time, at least in my opinion. Overall, he just has a strange football career, and you're going to see what I'm talking about later in this video. For example, at Alabama, he didn't do nothing to be remembered as an outstanding running back, but he was good when he played. Let's talk about his high school career first. Normally, I tell you their numbers and stats. I'm going to tell you something else. As a freshman in high school, he broke his ankle. As a sophomore, he tore his ACL, and as a junior, he broke his ankle again. Or not broke it, my bad. He had a high high ankle sprain, nearly the same thing. So in back-to-back-to-back years, he had major injuries. That was all before he even stepped foot on campus at a college and university. I'm going to consider those ankle injuries major because if you're a football player, you're always on the ankle and it's a big deal. I don't gotta say too much about it. If you're a basketball, football, or soccer player, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Ankle injuries are nothing to mess around with. They linger over time. For example, that's why I think he had those ankle problems all throughout high school career. They continue to come back. And then also, you never know when you're 100%, and if you come back too early, you can make it worse. Anyways, the rest of his high school career is pretty much simple. He wound up transferring to IMG Academy, and he was a star, and when it was all said and done, speaking of stars, he was a 5-star recruit. The reason I brought up the injuries is because he dealt with them even going into college. In his first year there in 2015, he tore his ACL again in spring practice. If you look up the definition of bad luck in the dictionary, there might be a picture of Bo Scarbrough. I'm going to go over this again. Before he even played college football, he had 2 ACL injuries and he also had 2 ankle injuries. In 2015, he did come back where he only played in 4 games, had 18 rushes for 104 yards, averaging 5.8 yards a carry. Nothing to really talk about, it's a small sample size. He was coming off an injury and he's a freshman. The following year in 2016, this is when all the hype, it was at its pinnacle and an all-time high. Keep in mind, if you're an Alabama running back, and I think most of you know this, you're going to be sharing carries. It's very rare for Alabama to have one ball-dominant running back like a Mark Ingram or Derrick Henry. You don't see it a lot. Yeah, they're going to have their main running back, but their backup and their third string is going to get a lot of carries too. That's how it was when Bo was playing. In 2016, in 13 games, he had 125 carries for 812 yards. That's impressive. If you want me to do the math, and I think you guys like when I give you this stat, he was averaging a whopping 6.5 yards a carry, and he had 11 touchdowns. I think we can all agree, averaging 6.5 yards a carry, that's getting the job done. The best part about his game, and I know some of you may disagree with this, you looked at him and you're like, okay, this is Alabama's power back, but he was much more than that. If he got past that first line, he showed you he was athletic and he could make you miss in the open field. Am I trying to say he was elusive as Najee Harris or Alvin Kamara? No, absolutely not. What I am saying is don't let his looks fool you because he was a little more explosive than you think. We're still in that 2016 time frame. Alabama was the #1 seed in the college football playoff and they was heading into the playoff undefeated. Alabama had a freshman quarterback who wasn't that good at throwing the ball, aka Jalen Hurts. Alabama matched up with Washington in the semifinal game, and this is where Jalen Hurts was only 7 for 14 and had 57 total passing yards, 0 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. If you would have showed somebody that stat line after the game, they would have said, oh yeah, Alabama lost. There's no way they won. If you were to say that, you would have been completely wrong because Alabama not only won, they won by 17 points. How did that happen? There's 2 words, Bo and Scarbrough. He had 19 carries for 180 yards, which comes to an average of 9.5 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns. I want to give credit to Alabama's defense. Yeah, they had a main part they won, but on offense, it was all Bo Scarbrough. At that point in time, people around the country started to take notice to this guy. Remember, he was only a sophomore. There was the argument, and I do gotta say it was fair, that oh, he had one good game, not a big deal. He's gotta do it on a consistent basis, and I would agree with that. In the next game against Clemson, he came out on fire and he was carrying Alabama. In the first half, he had 90 yards with 2 touchdowns and Clemson didn't have an answer for him. Unfortunately, like we stated earlier in this video, in the second half, it was one of the first plays in the third quarter. He got hurt and he couldn't play again. I'm not going to be that corny guy to say if he wouldn't have got hurt, Alabama, they would have won the game. Here's what I am going to say, and I think it's fair. If he wouldn't have got hurt, they'd have had a better chance. You can do the math. If he had 90 yards in the first half with 2 touchdowns, if he would have had the same performance, he would have finished with 180 yards and 4 touchdowns. That would have helped out. Also got to take into account too, Jalen Hurts, he was a freshman and he wasn't the greatest passer. So when you take away his #1 running option, the defense is going to make him pass, and yeah, it's not a good recipe for success. I love Jalen Hurts to death. He's a great and humble guy, but the dude in college, he couldn't throw a football. Still in the NFL, I think he's gotten better at throwing, but it's not quite as good as Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and some of the other players. I actually remember this like it was yesterday. When he got hurt, of course, the Bama fans, they were upset. On the bright side, he's going to come back for his junior year, and when you saw what he did in his last 2 performances, you would have thought he was going to win the Heisman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where our story, I don't want to say takes a drastic turn, but it takes a slow turn for the worse. After that injury and surgery from his sophomore year, he was never the same. Yeah, he came back in his junior year, but he had a huge drop off in production. In 2017, in 14 games played, he had 124 carries, almost similar to the year prior, but he only had 596 yards, averaging less than 5 yards a carry. You can see the drop off right there. He went from averaging 6.5 yards a carry to 4.8. It is key to note and throw in there, around this same time, he was sharing the backfield with Damian Harris and Josh Jacobs and Najee Harris. I want you to think about that. Damian Harris, Josh Jacobs, and Najee Harris are all starters in the NFL, and Scarbrough was having to share carries with them. If that doesn't show you and prove to you how deep Alabama's running back core has always been, I don't know what will. It wasn't so much that Scarbrough was playing bad and they weren't feeding him, it's just when you're the offensive coordinator, you got to get all these guys in there. That is so surreal to even look at. They had 3 starting NFL running backs on a college team. Maybe the craziest part about all of it, if you would have told people back then, out of all of them, Bo Scarborough was going to be the bust, they would have laughed at you. I don't want to beat around the bush. I'm going to call it how it is. He didn't have a great junior year. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was good. As to why it didn't go so well, it's a combination of the two things. 1, he had that injury, and 2, there was a lot of other running backs. At the end of the year, he had a tough choice. He could go to the NFL draft, or he could come back for his senior year, and somewhat shockingly enough, he decided to go to the NFL draft. I don't think it was a dumb decision, but I do think if he would have came back, he could have improved his draft stock even more if he had a better season. At the same time, I look at it from this standpoint, if he would have came back, he would have had to share the running back room once again, and it would have been a repeat cycle. Also, take into account, he's had injury problems throughout his entire career dating back to high school. I'm not talking about minor injuries, I'm talking about some major ones. He did declare for the 2018 NFL draft, where he was selected by the Dallas Cowboys in the 7th round with the 236th overall pick. I can't remember how many total picks are in the NFL draft, but that is about as low as it gets. Weirdly enough though, after they drafted him on September 1st in the same year, they released him because they decided they was only going to keep 2 running backs, and obviously he wasn't one of the 2. When he was released, the Jaguars picked him up on October 11th in 2018 to their practice squad. Then in the same year, in December of 2018, he was signed by the Seattle Seahawks. Things were at an all-time low. He was bouncing back and forth between teams, and he still wasn't even technically in the NFL. Going from practice squad to practice squad, it's got to be demoralizing. Finally though, in 2019, he got some good karma. He was picked up by the Detroit Lions. For the Lions in 2019, he not only appeared in 6 games, but he started 5 of them. For the season, he had 89 carries for 377 yards, which comes to an average of 4.2 yards a carry. Not too bad. With that being said, the Lions, I guess they weren't too impressed and they released him. In 2020, he got another chance with the Seattle Seahawks. He only appeared in 1 game and had 6 carries for 31 yards. Mainly with the Seahawks, he was on their practice squad and that's what he was there for. I feel like this man's got the worst luck. In that 1 game he played for the Seahawks where he had 6 carries, he got hurt and he tore his hamstring in the 4th quarter. Oh man, this is one of those stories, and I am not a sympathetic person, but you gotta feel bad for him, right? I've lost count. How many injuries has he had? Let me know in the comment section. I can't even count them all. When he was injured for the Seahawks, they bumped him back down to the practice squad and injury reserve list, and they released him. Nearly a year later, on August 6th in 2021, he signed with the Raiders on August 6th, but only 10 days later, on August 16th in 2021, they waived him. I don't even understand that. Why would you sign him in the first place? That is the up-to-date on him, and he is currently, as to when I'm speaking, jobless. Unreal to think about. Remember, this guy was really good at one point in time. Will he get another shot? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section. I think he will. To say his football career is completely over, I think that's delusional. He was in the NFL only a couple years ago, and I'm sure if he continues to work hard, he'll get at least one more shot. Key phrase, continuing to work hard. He's got to stay healthy and in shape. A lot of times when we do these stories, we see players when they fall off or they're a quote-unquote bust, it's because of things they did. For example, they fall down the wrong path and they start making some bad life choices. In this case and scenario, it's the complete opposite. From everything I saw, he gets in 0 off the field problems. It's just injuries that hold back his career, or has held back his career. When things were going good for him at Alabama, what happened? Boom, injury. The next sure he has a drop-off. Same thing in the NFL. Things are starting to look good. He's playing for NFL teams. Then boom, he gets injured. I'm wishing him the best of luck. I did go to his Instagram and Twitter, try to find something. There's nothing much to even say or talk about. He doesn't tweet a lot, he doesn't post on Instagram a lot, but he did retweet this and I found it interesting. Quote unquote, you relax on a plane even though you don't know the pilot. You relax on a ship even though you don't know the captain. You relax on a bus even though you don't know the driver. Why don't you relax in life, knowing that God is in control? He retweeted that, and that was late in 2021, not too long ago, so I think he's in a good state of mind. Just because he doesn't have a job now, going off of that retweet, he's not freaking out. He knows potentially if he does right, God's going to put him in the right path to succeed. I'm very curious. Let me know your thoughts down below, but with all that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. If you're new to the channel, we do enjoy it. Peace.